Good evening. I call to order this regular meeting of the Minnehaha County Planning Commission, and I will begin with a few introductory comments. As a courtesy to everyone here tonight, please make sure that all cell phones have been silenced. Please note that tonight's Planning Commission meeting will be rebroadcast via CityLink and posted on the www.minnehahacounty.org site for viewing by the general public. Any final action taken on the conditional use permit applications tonight will take effect 5 working days following this meeting unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision is filed in the Planning Office by Monday, October 3rd at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the County Commission for a hearing on Tuesday, October 18th at or after 9 a.m. The affected parties will be notified of the meeting date, and meetings of the County Commission are held in this same room. First on the agenda is public input. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? At this time, the Planning Commission will consider the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are perceived to be non-controversial and meet all of the requirements of the codes and regulations. The consent agenda will be acted on in one motion with no public hearing on the items unless a member of the public, the commission, or staff requests the item be removed from the consent agenda. The minutes from the August 22nd meeting are included in the consent agenda. Does any Planning Commission member wish to have an item removed for discussion? Next, I'll read each item on the consent agenda and ask if there are any issues or comments from the staff or the audience. If any member of the staff or audience would like to be heard on the item, please raise your hand and the item will be moved to the regular agenda to allow you to address the commission later in the meeting. Any item remaining on the consent agenda will be approved by the Planning Commission with the conditions recommended by staff. Item number 1 is the approval of the minutes of the August 22nd, 2022 meeting. Item number 2 is conditional use permit 22-63 to transfer 2 building eligibilities from the northeast quarter, the southwest quarter, and the southwest quarter, all in Section 26, Township 104 North, Range 48 West. 2 Swenson's Track 3, there is an exception of Swenson's Tracks 3A, 5, and 6, that's the end of the exception. The Northwest Quarter, Section 35, Township 104 North, Range 48 West. And the Northwest Quarter, Southwest Quarter, Section 26, Township 104 North, Range 48 West. Petitioner is Mark McGee. He's also the landowner. That is approximately 4 miles northeast of Sherman. Does anyone from the audience or the staff wish to be heard on this item? Item number 3, conditional use permit 22-64 to transfer 4 building eligibilities from the southwest quarter, the northeast quarter, and the northwest quarter, the southeast quarter, and the southeast quarter, the northwest quarter, and the northeast quarter, the southwest quarter, to the southwest quarter, the northwest quarter, in the north half, the southwest quarter. There is an exception of H-1 and H-2, which is the end of the exception, and the south half, the northwest quarter. There's another exception of H-1, HD, and except Hacks Tracks. That's the end of exception. All in Section 22, Township 101 North, Range 48 West. That is the Split Rock Township. Petitioner is Justin Bin. He's also the landowner. That is 2.5 miles south of Brandon. Once again, does anyone from the audience or the staff wish to be heard on this item? Item number 4, conditional use permit 22-66 to exceed 3,600 square feet of accessory building space, requesting 4,211 square feet on the property legally described as the north 500 feet The east, 433.35 feet. The west half, the northeast quarter, section 30, township 103 north, range 47 west. That is in Palisade Township. Petitioner is Deborah Matheson. That's also the landowner. Location is 48467 254th Street. Anyone from the audience or staff wish to be heard on this item? Item number 5, conditional use permit 22-68 to exceed 3,600 square feet of accessory building space, requesting 4,504 square feet on the property legally described as the north 590.31 feet, the east 590.31 feet, northeast quarter, section 12, township 103 north, range 51 west. That is in Grand Meadow Township. Petitioner is Kenneth Amundson. He's also the landowner. Location, 46597 251st Street. Anyone from the audience or staff wish to be heard on this item? Item number 6, conditional use permit 22-69 to allow a manufactured house on the property legally described as Tract 2, Dunker's Edition, the southeast quarter, southwest quarter, section 31, township 103 north, range 50 west. That's in Lyons Township. Petitioner is Lori Menke. She's also the landowner. It's located 3 miles northwest of Crooks. Does anyone from the audience or staff wish to be heard on this item? Item number 7, conditional use permit 22-70 to amend conditional use permit 19-32 to include the property legally described as Tract 5, Krell's Edition, the southeast quarter, section 36, township 101 north, range 51 west. That is in Wall Lake Township within the Blue Barn event facility located on Tract 3, Krell's Edition. There is an exception of H-1, end of exception. Southeast quarter, section 36, township 101 north, range 51 west. That is in Wall Lake Township. Petitioner is Blue Barn LLC. They're also the landowner. It is located at 46594 268th Street. Anyone from the audience or staff wish to be heard on this item? Item number 8 is conditional use permit 22-71 to allow a bed and breakfast establishment on the property legally described as the north 25 feet of the vacant access road lying between Tract 6 and 33 and the west half vacant access road and Tracts 5 and 6, Lot 7, Bauman subdivision, section 21, township 101 north, range 51 west. That is in Wall Lake Township. Petitioner is Jacqueline Toms. Landowners are Jacqueline Toms, Cynthia Scott, and W.E. Bud Toms. 26559 East Shore Place is the location. Anyone from the audience or staff wish to be heard on this item? Okay, we'll move this one to the regular agenda. Item number 9 is conditional use permit 22-72 to allow a bed and breakfast establishment and a manufactured home on the property legally described as the west half, vacant access road and Tract 4, Lot 7, Bauman subdivision, and the east half of the vacant access road and Tract 35, Lot 7, Bauman subdivision, all in section 21, township 101 north, range 51 west, Wall Lake Township. Petitioner is Jacqueline Toms. Landowners are Jacqueline Toms, Cynthia Scott, and W.E. Bud Toms. Location is 26557 East Shore Place. Anyone from the audience or staff wish to speak to this item? Okay, we'll move that one to the regular agenda as well. So, Commissioners, I have 1 through 7 that are on the consent agenda.
Madam Chair,
I move approval of the consent agenda.
second.
Okay, I have a motion and second to approve the items on the consent agenda from 1 through 7. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on those conditional use permits of 1 through 7. If yours has been approved, you're free to go. Item number 8. Kevin?
Good evening again. I am Kevin Hookman from the County Planning Department. This item is to allow a bed and breakfast establishment on the property described earlier. The petitioner is requesting to utilize the existing house on the property for short-term rentals, such as what is done on the Airbnb website. The planning staff has classified the bed and breakfast, or this type of operation, as a bed and breakfast, which requires a conditional use permit, and that's why we are here tonight for this item. The location of this property is on the east side of Wall Lake along East Shore Place. East Shore Place is a road that connects approximately 20 houses and cabins on the east side of the lake. The petitioner owns a collection of 5 parcels in this area. And this house is specifically located at 26559 East Shore Place. And it is related with the next item, which is conditional use permit 2272, and very similar request and closely related. As part of the request, the petitioner has submitted a detailed narrative for how the proposed bed and breakfast will operate. She noted that this is not her first short-term rental that she is operating. And she explained in the operation that the house is large enough to accommodate 4 to 6 people, and she has specific rules for how guests need to behave in the house. In any given conditional use permit request, there are 6 criteria that must be considered, and I will go through these individually. Criteria 1, the effect upon the use and enjoyment of other property in the surrounding area for uses already permitted and upon property values within the surrounding area. The property is located on a lakeside subdivision of houses and cabins. Short-term rentals are generally compatible with residential sites because traffic is low and the number of guests are limited. The use can easily be converted back into a single-family dwelling if the property owner wishes to stop the operation. And the property has dedicated parking for their guests. Criteria 2, the effect upon the normal and orderly development and improvement in the surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. The road that is East Shore Place is largely developed, many with single-family dwellings. Newer development in this area is predominantly done as larger replacement houses for existing houses rather than new houses on vacant lots. So the area is not changing very quickly or significantly. The proposed use should not have an effect on the future development of the area. Number 3, the utilities, access roads, drainage, and/or necessary facilities are provided. The property shares a driveway with the cabin to the north. Both sites have separate parking, and since it's using an existing house, drainage and utilities are already present and accounted for. Number 4, the off-street parking and loading requirements are met. The property has a 2-stall garage and a sufficient driveway space for off-street parking. Number 5, that measures are taken to control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibration, and lighting, inclusive of lighted signs, so that none of these will constitute a nuisance. Activities of a short-term rental and bed and breakfast are similar to those within single-family dwelling. The operator explained in the narrative that Airbnb allows for some screening of guests and customers, and the operator does have the ability to deny customers who have received a bad record of behavior. Number 6, health, safety, and general welfare of the public in the comprehensive plan. Short-term rentals such as as proposed, allow property owners to supplement income and utilize space that may otherwise not be needed or fully utilized. To protect the guests that attend the house, staff is suggesting that functioning smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors are, as required by the building code, are placed in the house. And in order to protect the public, the petitioner should maintain a list of guests who stay in the bed and breakfast to be available for law enforcement if needed. Staff is recommending approval of the conditional use permit with 7 conditions. I'll go ahead and run through some of the photos here. So this is the driveway located off of East Shore Place. You'll see the large accessory building comes right up to the road. This is a fence that is existing just on the other side of the driveway in the south side. This is looking towards the house from the parking area. And then this is looking towards the south, which would be the neighboring property. The shed in the background is the neighboring property, and the 2 storage containers there are the neighboring property owners. And then this would be looking at the driveway going out to the property to the east. And then this is a photo of East Shore Place coming off of out of the driveway where they would turn in and out of the driveway. I believe that's all my photos. I'll go back to the main site plan here again. Yes, as I noted, conditional use permit number 2272 is a very similar use. We'll go through that in more detail after this one is decided, as they're going to be similar, and because it's an Airbnb request on the next property to the north, and with the additional of a manufactured dwelling. But as I said, both of these are going to be decided separately, so we'll cover one at a time. So, is there any questions?
Any questions for him? No. Go ahead, Doug.
Just a silly one. What's your definition of short-term rental?
What's your definition of the term short-term rentals?
So the ordinance does not have a definition for short-term rental, so that's why staff has lumped it into a bed and breakfast establishment, and why the permit is listed to allow bed and breakfast. So a typical bed and breakfast is that the property owner provides meals and things like that for guests, but in this case, that is not part of the goal, I guess.
Anyone else have a question for him? Not at this time. Let me ask you to come back up. Is the petitioner here? Will you please step forward, state your name and address?
Hi. Sorry, I've never done this before, so I'm a little nervous. And my son, under extenuating circumstances, cannot be here. We are actually the property owners. We closed on Friday. So I probably didn't get that information to Kevin soon enough. So it's my son and myself and my daughter-in-law that now own the property. So like I said, we closed on that this last Friday. I would like to, I do have him on the phone, so if that's not acceptable to you, let me know, but he wants to be in on this since he is part of the property owner. And so I do have them here on my cell phone if that's okay. So that, because under extenuating circumstances, he could not be here today. We've had a lot of things happen in our family, so he was not able to be here. So is that okay that I have him on my phone?
Sure.
Okay. I would like to start by reading a letter that my son and I wrote together in regard to this whole situation. And then I do have a PowerPoint, if that's possible, that we can do that, but I would like to read the letter first, if that's possible. We are here because we want to improve the property. We want to build it back to what it was once and make it even better. We care about the property and we care about Wall Lake. We care about our community and our friends out there at Wall Lake and our neighbors. We could have done what some others we are aware of are doing and not applied for the permit, but we recognize our responsibility as members of the community. We only want to see the community thrive, and starting with our property, we'll have the power of attrition, and our neighbors will realize that their property value will go up along with ours. Wall Lake may not be this may not be the biggest priority for those who want to live the rest of their lives here, but much like we want to keep the property in our family for generations to come, improving our property will only improve the lives of our neighbors, and it's not like we're going to be bringing enormous shipping containers on the property that are going to just sit there and rust. We will be focused on making the property the most hospitable it can be, and really and truly, isn't that what our community is all about out there? We aren't the biggest lake, it's not the biggest beach, doesn't have a lake with the best fishing or even the biggest houses, but if we have any say in it, it'll always be the lake or the community with the best neighbors. The lake with the friendliest neighbors who care, and I know and understand that they want to protect the area, as I do as well. It needs to be the lake that people go to make memories on the water, or whether it's on the shore. 2 short-term hospitality rental properties are not going to have anything but a positive impact on this community. Instead of 2 vacant homes deteriorating physically and deteriorating the aesthetics of our community, we can have 2 cared-for homes that give people the opportunity to make happy memories at Wall Lake. It'll be an opportunity for people to buy gas, to buy snacks, to buy tackle, whatever it would be from the corner store of Wall Lake Oil. We'll be bringing more people who will probably want to get fishing licenses, and that will support our Game Fish and Parks Department. And it'll be people who will want to duplicate those memories and possibly come back and someday want to purchase property at Wall Lake when some of us are ready to move on and not carry it on through the family. Even though there might not be a lot of people who want to sell their home at Wall Lake, it does increase the home values for those who do. And it also keeps the property out of the hand of developers who might want to come and build large offshore subdivisions in our community, and that would truly change the nature of our neighborhood. We are not the enemy, we are your friends. We are the Toms Bauk Rollinger family who has held this property since 1950. Actually, many more decades than probably some of you would be able to remember. I spent my childhood running back and forth between all 3 properties. The owner before my father, if you saw the kind of light-colored brick house, the owner before that was my grandmother's sister, or my great-aunt Laura Bauk, who was actually my nanny and pretty much helped raise me. Her daughter Sally was my mom's cousin, or my aunt Sally, whom I took care of in her later years, and she now, Lori Lanford, now lives in that house. Dad's cabin was one of the first homes on this lake. I laid the first brick in the Bauk house, which is the house that my dad was living in, which is next to the cabin, and I helped lay the bricks in the house that Lori lives in right now on the Rollinger house next to that. And we were all family. My son, Christian, learned how to water ski on this lake, who later, as a result, became a member of Catfish Bay. We remember when the mansion next to the beach was a dance hall and a roller skating rink. We remember when the fertilizer leached into the lake and the algae began blooming uncontrollably. We remember when the new bridge was installed at the island and where only a handful of other structures were on the lake. We carry on the legacy of my father, his grandfather. I'm sure you all remember Dad's travel counterclockwise on the lake and him standing out there saying you have to travel counterclockwise. I can't think of a better representation of somebody that cares about the community and the people out there. He didn't have to plant that sign on the dock for personal reasons. He did it because he cared about the safety of our community, as we do also. He went to great lengths to ensure people respected our lake and respected our residents, and that's exactly what we plan on. I think that one of the biggest testaments of strength and passion for this community out here at Wall Lake is the presence of those here this evening that are wanting to discuss our plans, and I'm more than happy to do that. We want to partner with you. We want to make our community stronger. Anytime you would have a concern with any hospitality at our property, we would do everything in our power to address that. I think part of what's happening, because it's kind of been brought to my attention by some of the other neighbors, is that they don't really understand what an Airbnb is. And that's why I would like to go through the PowerPoint to try and explain that. But just a quick summary is every guest has a background check through Airbnb. The guests are rated by other hosts that have had them in their homes. We, as a host, have the right to decline or accept a reservation request. We have house rules, as Kevin said. They're posted on the site or on the application as well as in the home. They're expected to follow rules and conduct themselves in a respectful manner and will not be allowed to use the Airbnb system if they do something that is inappropriate or outside of what our rules are. We also will be using those homes for family, for close friends, that type of thing. We'll be, I'll be there a lot during the summer, staying in the home myself. We'll be at both on a regular basis to ensure compliance with the local rules, the community standards, our own personal guidelines, in order to keep our property safe and well maintained. We
Can you
will be
please speak
watchful
into
that-
the mic?
I'm sorry? Oh, sorry. We will be watchful that our neighbors are not disturbed and working constantly to improve our property. Sorry. Is it gonna be there? Okay, is that better? This probably will not necessarily be the case if we cannot do the Airbnb and have income to help us improve the property as we go. I'm sure that many of you remember my stepmother, Janet. She was pretty much an angel. While she lay on her deathbed in the hospital, she grabbed my hand and she pulled me close. And after whispering her instructions for her funeral, she made me promise that I would not tear that cabin down until my father passed. I honored that promise. We had an amazing 100th birthday party planned for my dad this last April. He had a hemorrhagic stroke on his birthday. He passed away 10 days after that. This was a hard promise to keep in regard to that cabin because it is deteriorating and it's time for us to move on and improve that property. Help us, please, keep our community a place where good memories are made. So we'll start with the PowerPoint. Airbnb began in 2008, and it's kind of a funny story because two guys, I can't remember, they were up someplace, I think on the West Coast. There were conventions going on and people were scrambling to look for hotels. So these two guys decided that they were going to open their home and they threw an air mattress, one of those big air mattresses on the floor, and told people, you can come stay with us for a fee. We'll charge you a little bit of fee. And that's how Airbnb got its name, and that's how it got started. Airbnb is different than hotels because guests go through a background check before they can book any stays. And the hosts, like I said, have the final say when it comes to approving a booking. Lastly, hotels don't have access to prior reviews of people that have stayed with them or even profiles about the guests before they stay. Airbnb helps, is that page 2? I can't tell, does that say page 2? I can't. Here we go, okay, well, anyway, okay. Airbnb helps making sharing your home enjoyable and safe. They verify personal profiles and listings. They maintain a smart messaging system so hosts and guests can communicate with each other with certainty. It's a platform that ensures your control over who's staying in your home. Safety and responsibility are most definitely their main concerns. The guest and me as a host would have access to any issues through Airbnb that they can be solved through Airbnb or solved through the host. As I said, I explained to you where they got their name, and according to the Airbnb data from the Economic Policy Institute, the Airbnb effect increases actually the value of an area. The majority of reservations are for 2 to 4 people, and I can testify to that because I have an Airbnb in my home right now. Anyway, the majority of reservations are for 2 to 4 people. There are approximately 1 million users in 2015, and they were over the age of 60. Approximately 1 million users, sorry, I already said that, we're over the age of 60. 64% of Airbnb users feel like home sharing is better for the environment. 55% of the hosts and 54% of those hosts are women. Airbnb demographics show that 2 million hosts on the platform are also women. In addition to the top-rated hosts are also female seniors over the age of 60. So according to the terms of services, you have to be 18 years or older to sign up on the platform as either a guest or as a host. We want to provide good people with a place to make lasting memories at Wall Lake, and we have so many good memories at our own property. We want to share that magic with those who will love and respect the property and the lake community like we do. These are just pictures of Airbnb guests, and I can tell you too about mine, but Adam and Katie, the first picture, they're celebrating their 5-year anniversary, so they rented an Airbnb. They just wanted a nice, relaxing week on the shore. Jeff is a retired person who bought his dream boat, and now he visits all the local lakes just to go fishing and then stays, to rest at the cabin in the evening. Susan's kids live in Sioux Falls, and she just had a child her kids just had a child of their own, and she wants to explore the surrounding communities while she looks for a home to be near her grandchildren. And the lake house is a great home base for her to start at. You can go up? No. Oh, sorry. I'm going the wrong direction. There we go. As a host, we can select and set very clear expectations and outline our specific rules, like I said earlier, like quiet hours, the number of guests that we will allow during a stay, pet policy, spaces that can be used and spaces that are not to be used, just for an example. We can set up, adjust, and broadcast our house rules through the app that they get onto to look for. Most conceivable rules are already an option in the app that are in there due to prior experiences of other hosts. But we can also set up new rules that are unique to our home. For instance, we can prevent parties on our property by including a no party policy or, specific ground rules for any parties, like if you're just gonna have a little birthday party or something. In 2020, Airbnb actually announced a global party ban at all their vacation rental properties. They removed an event-friendly and party events allowed filters from their search engine, so now you have to ask for specific permission in order to be able to have any type of party. We will remind guests that parties are strictly forbidden unless they get permission from us first, tell us what the party is about, and so on. And we can take legal action against them if they do not follow that rule. We'll be at the property frequently to manage the rental and maintain the property to ensure our rules are followed. We will also install what they call a smart noise monitoring device called Noise Aware. What all it does, doesn't record or anything, it just monitors the level of noise, and if the noise gets too high, then that, alarms us, and then we would take care of that most likely immediately, as long as we were there and everything. We would typically say that 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. is quiet time, and we'll also install remote monitored cameras on the exterior of the property so that we can kind of keep an idea of what's going on, so that there's any type of illicit activity going on. We won't allow smoking, and we screen guests based on that criteria. I do that in my own home now. It's a no smoking rule in my home, and if they smoke, then I ask them to leave. They'll be refrained from any friends or family whose names they haven't included in the first reservation, their request for reservation. We will encourage guests to respect the privacy of our neighbors. Don't go and bug them and knock on their door and say, oh, can you tell me where this is or that is? Because that's what they're supposed to do with us. They're supposed to come to us and ask us. They won't be allowed to openly consume alcohol outside the interior of the home. No fireworks except on 4th of July and possibly New Year's Eve. Can't play loud music for neighbors to hear, in their homes. Not allowed to enter the neighbor's property without permission from that neighbor. No unlicensed motor vehicles are going to be allowed. Allowed to engage in any type of violence or foul language, that type of thing. Can't obstruct your neighbor's access to their property. Airbnb itself has a very long list of community standards that guests are required to follow. I'm not going to go through all of those because there's so many, but just some basic things are no dangerous or illegal animals, the right to press charges if needed to be, disrespecting surrounding communities, respect its rules, designated hours, parking, number of cars allowed, disposal of trash, designated areas, follow all the safety rules, don't create any hazardous situations. Security, again, whether you're opening your home as a host or experiencing a host hospitality as a guest, trust that you'll feel secure because we will have, things on the property that help make that secure. No discriminatory behavior or hate speech. Treat everyone with respect in every interaction. Follow all applicable laws. Don't treat others differently because of their race, ethnicity, natural origin, religious affiliation, sexual orientation, gender, whatever, disability, diseases, whatever. No insulting of people on that type. Don't disturb common spaces. Going down here. There is a watch list that is actually on the application website. We do require guests to provide Airbnb with a government ID before booking. We would limit the number of guests to 6, because that's all that either home would provide. Guests with any negative reviews would probably not be allowed. I mean, they absolutely wouldn't. We kind of covered that other as far as pets and that type of thing is concerned.
Madam Chair, Tony's
Yep.
having trouble hearing
Oh, sorry, I need to move
director
over again,
there
I'm
in the-
sorry.
behind the screen.
Okay, our family will handle the administration and approval of the reservations. And like I said, we have the right to approve or deny bookings at our discretion. Before approval, the profile is reviewed, all right, and vetted to ensure that only the highest quality guests stay at our property. Guests with negative reviews, like I said, wouldn't be allowed. I will tell you that in my home, okay, that I am hosting now, we have an open home, but I also have what we call a mother-in-law apartment. And in this mother-in-law apartment, you walk through our front door with a security code and you walk straight back into the apartment. The people that I have had so far have been such a positive experience. The 2 girls that were just here, one was a banker and the other one was like a mortgage, she does mortgages, approvals and that type of thing. 2 wonderful young ladies. The woman before that is a microbiologist with her PhD who works for Sanford. We had a couple construction workers before that, a nice young man that I think worked in insurance. So our experiences so far have been very positive. The girls that just stayed there came up, introduced themselves to me. Mary Jo, who is the microbiologist, came up and had dinner with me. So we've had a really good positive experience with that so far, and we would like to have that out at the lake. Christian, my son, I'm probably going through this too fast. Yeah, those are our monitoring, that's the noisy. Okay. My son has a bachelor's degree in residential property management from Ball State University, and he has his master's degree in real estate from Georgetown University, and he's worked his entire career in property management, has thousands of conversations with prospective guests and renters from around the country. He has a knack for eliciting candid conversation from guests who are looking to apply to a community. He knows he's pretty good at reading between the lines. And he's in charge of asking the direct questions to ensure the people that stay at our property know the rules and how to follow them. He typically will generate a conversation before the approval occurs and talks to them and makes sure that they understand, and then does a brief introductory message. I'm not going to go through all of this, but we will do all the things that are required, like a fire extinguisher, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide, detectors, that type of thing. Information for poison control, hospitals, police, fire department, that type of thing. That's all on what are those plastic holders that has a sheet of paper in it that tells everything about the emergency. We've kind of already explained how we're going to monitor the property. If our neighbors have any issues, we want them to feel free to contact us at our direct phone number or by email. If there's any issue, whether it's noise or otherwise, like I said, we have a 24/7 neighborhood support hotline to help with any complaints. Our response to any violation of the house rules will follow the order depending on the severity. Personal visit to the property, either by us or the host, or the police, or whatever needs to be handled. I know that there are some concerns about increased noise on the lake regarding having an Airbnb, and I will tell you, the people that I have had stay in my home so far, I'm worried that I'm making more noise for them than they are for us. They've all been extremely polite and very quiet. Traffic, no, the traffic is going to be minimal because you're going to have a family coming in or whomever is coming in, maybe, going out to do what they're doing, but the traffic isn't going to be any heavier than it would be if we had somebody living out there. So there really shouldn't be any types of issues regarding that. We're estimating, vacancy to maybe be between 25 to 30% during the year. This obviously will result in less traffic and less dust that I think some people are concerned about. Litter, we have garbage service. They'll be instructed on how to dispose of their garbage, or I'll take care of that when I get out there to clean. If it's a problem, we won't let them come back, or we'll ask them to leave, whatever the situation is. We ask, if you have any other concerns, bring them to our attention, and we would really like to address that. We love the community out at Wall Lake. I've been there my whole life, and I feel very fortunate that we are able to keep this property in the family. And we just hope that we can continue to build the relationships with our neighbors and become a good resource for Wall Lake. Thank you for listening.
Any questions for her? Doug?
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not nitpicky or anything. Are your facilities, are they handicap accessible?
Yeah, the home is, the brick home is. There wouldn't be a problem because everything's flat and it's one level.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
The cabin, like I said, we're working on that part, and that's one of the things that I wanted to, talk about as well. And that will be if we can get that torn down and put up a new place.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
did we get her name and address?
I don't think so. Will you state your name, ma'am,
Yes.
and your address?
Jackie Toms, and then 2860 East Old Orchard Trail, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, 57103. And then the 26557 and the 26559 East Shore Place in Hartford, or at Wall Lake.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, is there anyone else here in the audience that cares to speak to this item? Please step forward, state your name and address, sir.
My name is Dwayne Boyce, 26575 East Shore Place.
neighbor. Jackie, that doesn't sound like much fun. Stay. Part of my concern in speaking to this issue was my experience over the years, being out at Sturgis, being in the hills, seeing what happens where they have rentals next door and the parties. For instance, Terry Peak used to be a great place to be, and now you can't even stand to be there because every night is a giant party. And I appreciate the fact that you seem to have addressed that major concern, because that can impact a neighborhood. If you've got loud music, you've got rowdy people next door coming and going, running around the neighborhood thinking that it's their playground, that's a problem. And if that is indeed a concern taken care of, I do not resist this. I would encourage the county to pay a little attention to Wall Lake. It's like a Petri dish every summer. We need some help with the algae. We need some help with our sewer system. We need some help with our roads. They're private roads. I personally took care of the Wall Lake Place and the East Shore gravel part that goes up past this place for many, many years at my expense. I don't mind it. But if you're going to say yes to stuff going on in our community, help us out a little bit. Help us out with the sewer. Help us out with the Wall Lake algae problem. Help us out with our roads a little bit. We would appreciate that. But I think it sounds like it could be a good addition to our community, as long as that is honored, that we do not have a traffic and a noise nuisance in our community. That's my main concern.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience care to address this item?
Madam Chair, could we have a map of backup so people can say, so we can see where they live? Please. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please state your name and address, ma'am.
Margaret Bevere, 46271, Wall Lake Place, Hartford, South Dakota, 57033. I am here actually to represent about 80% of the residents that live on the east side of Wall Lake in an objection to having a B&B on our side of the lake. Most of the homes on that side of the lake are single-family residential homes. The people have been there for an extended period of time. It's a small community. It's a safe area where your kids, your grandkids can play. We know each other. We try to keep it that way. We don't really want a rental property with different people coming in and out weekly, monthly, whatever they're going to rent. That's a real concern for our area. The other concern is our sewer system. We have a centralized sewer system that we pay privately for. The sewer system has many lift stations. There's certain homes on every lift station. Consistently throughout the years, we have problems with our lift stations. And when the lift station goes down, you have about 4 or 5 days that they'll tell you, do not use the dishwasher, do not use the washing machine, and very limited showers. If you have a B&B in that area, it's going to put another strain on each lift station, whatever lift station they're on. And we're the residents that have to pay for all the repairs. Right now, it costs us $90 a month to maintain our sewer system, which is fairly high if you consider the different communities, what they pay. And so if something were to go down, they have very specific rules, what can go in the septic, what can go in the toilets. And people that are going to rent are not going to follow those rules. They're going to do whatever they want. They're not going to worry about our septic or our sewer systems, and when they do fail, It's going to be the residents that live around the east side of the lake that are going to be responsible for the major repairs that are going to take place. And I know last year they talked about raising the sewer rates because they've had so many repairs around the lake because of the strain on the system. That's a concern for all of us. The other thing is road maintenance. That is not, I believe somebody said, a well-maintained road. The maintenance on that road is the residents' responsibility. We have a fund, and every year we try to chip in about $100, and Dwayne was right. He does most of the maintenance on the road, and he's done it free for most of the time. But right now, it's like a washboard. It's a single lane. It's one way in and one way out. It doesn't go around the lake. And people that live way up on the north end of Wall Lake or the road, people are constantly turning around in their lawns, their driveways, riding over. A couple residents up there had to put fences up to keep them off of their lawns because we have a lot of traffic up there, a lot of looky-loos. We're on the road as you go to the beach area. So a lot of people think, oh, well, that's how you get into the beach. Even though we have signs posted all over, no access, private road, beach that way, we constantly have traffic coming in there now, kind of looking around in the area. And if a B&B is advertised, you're going to have a lot of people out there say, well, let's go by and let's see what that B&B looks like. It's only going to add more traffic to the area, more wear and tear on our road, more maintenance. Last Saturday, we had, at our house, 6 people turn around in our driveway that were out there just kind of cruising the area. We really moved out there to get away from Sioux Falls traffic, a lot of people, and we don't really want any more people out there driving around. The other thing is a safety issue. People going up and down the road, Sioux Falls is not what it used to be, and then you're going to invite more people out to an area that is patrolled by the county sheriff. They're not out there all the time. And you're going to have people renting that you can do a background check on a lot of people, but how big of a background check are you going to do? I mean, I worked for the federal government. Unless you're going to fingerprint them, you don't know their background. You don't know what they're into. You don't know if they're into drugs. You don't know if they've been convicted of anything. You're going to do a simple little background check. And then to have absentee management. They're not going to live on those grounds, as she said. She's going to be living in Sioux Falls. So they say you can only rent to 6 people. 6 people move in, and oh, let's have a party. We live on a lake. We're going to rent this for the weekend. Let's have a good time. And that has happened on the west side of Wall Lake, where they have a B&B, and they also have an individual that rents the lower half of his house, the basketball player that lives in South America, who rents the bottom half during the summertime. Residents over there complain constantly about the parties, the noise. And when you're not living on the property and being there every day to make sure that they're doing and following the rules, you're not going to have everybody follow the rules. It's different if you have a B&B and you actually live in the B&B with the people, serve the meals, make sure that you're there, that things get done. If you're not on the property, you're going to get those individuals that are not going to comply with the rules out there. And that's just common nature. I mean, many of us have stayed in motels, and there's rules in motels, and how many of us had to call the front desk to say, hey, quit the partying, quit the slamming doors, and that's what's going to happen out there, because nobody's going to be out there except the residents that rent that area. The other thing is, if you start opening up the area to put in modular homes, what's going to prevent everybody else that lives out there that has extra land or acreage say, hey, I'd like to put up another modular home. I want to put up another home here on my 5 acres that I have sitting over here. Or I want to put up another building on my 5 acres to sit over here. A lot of us have more land than just a city lot or a lot. And that's kind of the case with that, to have another home put up in that area. We all could start doing that, which would decrease the home values in the area. And I just don't think it's conducive to the residential area that we currently have. It's single family, it's well maintained, everybody knows everybody looks out for everybody. We don't have any safety issues out there so far, and I think this is just gonna bring more traffic, more people, more road maintenance, septic problems, and it's not gonna be a nice community as it was. It's meant to be single-family residential homes, not rental property around the lake. And that's how I feel. And there's several other people, I think I gave you the information. We went around and asked everybody their feelings. 80% of the people said absolutely not. They do not want a B&B on that side of the lake. Couple of the families were gone on vacation, so we couldn't get them. But it's a real concern in our area. It's, we already get a lot of traffic out there, a lot of looky-loos, a lot of people driving around, and basically have no respect when they do drive around. Like I said, they're turning around in driveways, they're going over lawns. It's just gonna bring, I think, problems to the area. And I don't know if anybody else wants to talk that's here. Thank you.
Ma'am, are you done? Okay, thank you. Please step forward, state your name and address.
My name is Lance Bergeson. I live at 26527 East Shore Place. I do want to echo and maybe extend a little bit what Mrs. Bevere said. I do think there's a difference between the owner of the facility being present or versus absent, and how that affects the behavior of those renting the property. The nature of our neighborhood is very quiet. I'm probably the youngest person that owns a property there, and as you can see, I have gray hair. So it's quiet. 10 o'clock would be kind of a late quiet time for that area. And I would also like to point out, first of all, that the word party is fairly subjective. And what would constitute a party, I think, in the current neighborhood would be, you know, not very boisterous. The nature of renting a place versus, you know, staying in an owner-occupied space versus coming to the lake, I think the expectations are clearly quite different. Anyone who's been to Lake Okoboji can see this. Noise travels over water quite well, and my feeling is that there would be a disturbance, whether it would be raised to the level of, you know, needing to call the authorities or not, but certainly disruptive and annoying. That potential exists, even if only a small percentage of the renters engage in that type of activity. So, thank you. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. I've also lived in the neighborhood my whole life, so I can speak to that. In fact, I mowed the yard for Bud and Tom. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to address this item?
Hi, Todd Schrick, 26569 East Shore Place. I'm new too, and I kind of share what's happened to you. I lost a parent. That's why we are here tonight, because I have inherited a place on Wall Lake. It sounds good, but I guess I don't know what to say. I don't have the full support yet right now, thinking of what'll happen. You wonder about rentals. You always, you don't want to buy a house next to a rental house. I have 2 houses to the south of where this would be. I guess I echo the sentiment of the other lady that spoke. It really was a family neat, it's a neat place. I really realized what being a neighbor was as my dad died from cancer, and watched the neighbors huddle around and everybody really treat him well. And I was really impressed with the community out there. And like I say, I'm new to it. So I guess I don't know what to say. I don't want to make any enemies. We want to make friends out there, not enemies. I don't know what to say, but I just wanted to speak. I came here tonight. I've never been to one of these. So just kind of want to speak and say, I guess I don't know what to think. Rental stuff is always scary, so I just don't know what to say. Thank you.
Anyone else care to speak to this item? I'll close the floor then.
Do I have the opportunity to respond to some of that? I think
I would guess so, yes. You can,
Well, I guess
as long as you keep it short.
I feel like I've responded to a lot of that already through the PowerPoint, there were so many issues that now I'm not 100%
microphone.
sure.
This is on television.
Okay, well, there are quite a few issues, all right? As far as the partying, we've kind of addressed that. And I feel like when they're talking about renters, they're really putting people down. And as, I just have to reemphasize that the people that I've had in my home, they're not like that, they're professionals. And we have the right to choose who can stay there and who cannot stay there. In regard to the sewer system, how would that be any different than somebody living out there every single day and using the sewer system? I mean, if I was living out there every single day, that would be the same thing. So it's not like people are gonna use the sewer system more than if someone was living there on a full-time basis. As a matter of fact, it'll probably be getting used less. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I can't remember everything because there were so many different things that everybody talked about, but I guess I would, I respect the community and I'm not going, as far as people driving around looky-loos, you might want to take into consideration that we've had some deaths out there, so real estate agents are hounding. They're going out and looking at the property so that they can come back and talk to the people that own it. I mean, I've been approached by probably 16 different real estate agents as soon as my dad died. Even before he passed away, my dad moved in and lived with me for 2 years. And I had people calling me that weren't even real estate agents saying, is the property for sale? Is the property for sale? And so that may be a lot of what you're seeing in regard to the people that are coming out and looking around. So, I mean, I'm happy to address each concern individually, but I guess I would ask, have a little faith in me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I guess I'll close the floor. Commissioners?
Madam Chair, I
Yeah.
have a question for staff on this. These lots are grandfathered in at smaller than normal, right? Because our normal minimum in the rural area is 1 acre, right?
Yes, many of these lots are grandfathered in and smaller. Because of the central sewer system, the lots can get considerably smaller with a rural residential. I believe it goes down to somewhere about 8,000 square feet is what the minimum lot size when there's a central sewer system. So although that is, some of these lots probably do meet that, there are a lot that don't still.
Madam Chair, so
Yes.
Kevin, if the structures were removed from the property, would they be able to be rebuilt?
Yes. So, and we'll be addressing that in the next conditional use permit. The cabin is planned to be removed and replaced by a manufactured home, and so that'll be the next one.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for him? Guess not. Discussion?
Madam Chair, I think whatever we do is going to be appealed, and I wish I'd had the foresight to call the sheriff about this, because he lives on the lake, and, he probably has a perspective that it might be unique to. And I know the county and Scott work hard to keep that beach operating in a safe manner, and still we have life preservers stolen, etc. It's difficult, and people bring booze improperly out there and bury the bottles in the sand. We've had issues with vandalism. We put in more surveillance, and the sheriff's deputies go out there more often, but even then we've had trouble with recalcitrant teenagers refusing to listen to a sheriff's deputy. The world is a tough spot, and things are going to change. I know that the sewer system is privately paid for and probably needs an upgrade. should put in for some federal money on it, is all I can suggest. But I think this is going to be appealed to the next level, and recognizing that, I think I'll make a motion to deny, knowing that it'll be appealed and that the full commission can make a decision, and we'll also have a better chance to distill our arguments on either side to a few points, not just a long diatribe of verbiage, which we often have to listen to, but it's not persuasive necessarily. Anyway, I could go on and on.
Is that your motion?
I'd make a motion to deny at this point. And I would encourage an appeal.
Do I have a second?
Dies for lack of a second. Speak up, boys, girls.
I say that it died for lack of a second. Is any further discussion on this item? Or I'll entertain a motion. I've already closed the floor, ma'am.
Can I go back and second Jeff's motion, just so we have a motion on the floor to discuss?
I'll
Madam
second her
Chair.
motion.
Okay, that's
Okay.
primarily so we have a motion on the floor to discuss, to move forward.
That sounds perfect. Okay, we now have a motion on the floor to deny it with a second. Any further discussion? Becky?
I think this is a hard thing. It's going to be denied anyway. I mean appealed. Personally, I have stayed in lots of Airbnbs. I only stay in them when I travel. I never stay in them locally. For me, visiting with grandchildren, it's been, I'm the kind of person that goes and stays, but I also understand all the concerns of the neighbors. And I want to clarify, this is not a application to rezone. It stays private dwelling. It is an application for conditional use. And with a conditional use, it means they have an approval to use it for that condition. And if there are complaints and violations, the county has the right to remove that conditional use. So it's not officially a rezoning. It's an application for use. So I think it's a hard one, but for tonight, I'll vote to deny.
Any further discussion?
That was my diatribe, Jeff.
Okay, I have a motion and second for the denial of conditional use permit 22-71. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Ooh, the chair gets to break the
I need a,
tie.
I need a roll call vote here. Jeff, you're a deny?
So aye means deny, right?
Yep.
Oh, aye.
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 Nay.
Nay.
Great.
We got a buyer.
Yes, exactly. Since it's a tie, I have to break the tie. I will vote for denying. So this conditional use permit at this time, 22-71, has been denied.
Madam Chair, so again, this can be appealed to the regular commission, not the planning commission, but the regular commission, which meets in the same room, and have 5 days to appeal.
Okay, we'll move
Right,
on to
Stan?
item number 9. Kevin?
All right. Item number 9 is very much related to the previous item. So conditional use permit number 2272 is to allow a bed and breakfast establishment and a manufactured house on this property. The manufactured house, the location is 26557 East Shore Place. The manufactured home is to replace the existing dwelling on the property. And I'll just kind of, since we discussed at length the Airbnb, I'll just kind of try to cover the manufactured house part of this application. The narrative states the proposed manufactured house is large enough to accommodate up to 6 people. Staff recommends approximately 3 people a bedroom, so have a limit of up to 9 people for the dwelling if it becomes an Airbnb. Photos that have been provided by the applicant show that the manufactured house to be 28 feet by 58 feet and has lots of windows on the one side to make it look similar to lakefront type properties. And maybe I'll bring up a couple photos. I did, but I didn't have time to enter it quite in. So as I mentioned, that the design of the proposed manufactured house is meant to look like a more traditional stick frame house with the a little bit wider and shorter house style. The manufactured house will largely be hidden by a large accessory building and many trees on the south side of the house and the west and the east side of the house. The proposed manufactured dwelling has the greatest effect on the property to the north of the house. And it is there, let's see, where am I at? And that the reason for the manufactured house is to replace the deteriorating, largely unusable cabin. As we mentioned before, this property shares a driveway and has its own parking areas, off-street parking. The use of the property will not significantly change the topography of drainage. And then the bed and breakfast and manufactured house, if it becomes an Airbnb, should have functioning smoke detectors, carbon monoxide testers, and maintain a list of guests. Staff does recommend approval of the conditional use permit with 8 conditions on the permit. And I do have a couple of photos. This is the cabin that's being replaced. You'll see it's smaller. The petitioner has noted that the cabin doesn't have heat, so it cannot be used during the winter. And you'll see that on the north side there is already a large fence. And you'll also see the wall of the house there that as the approach goes down to the lake, makes the house much taller than the lot and the house in the north there. And then you can kind of see the approach to down to the lake and near the cabin. And then there's a driveway out. So I'll go back to the main, probably here. I'm available for any questions, and I guess we'll go through a public hearing.
Any
Yes,
questions for him?
Is that about the same size as that modular home would be then, or not? That cabin that's there, or is this
No,
gonna be a little bigger?
The cabin is quite small. I guess I don't know exactly how big, but I would venture a guess that the manufactured house is at least twice as big, if not a little
No.
larger.
No, it's only 8 feet wider.
Okay, 8 feet
Only 8
wider?
feet wider, and then it's 20 by 54, and the cabin is 20,
8 feet wider and
it'd be 4 feet wider on each side.
Okay.
Any other-
We already measured out for the setbacks and all that type of thing, and it's appropriate. That's why we
I'll
chose
let the-
that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Our
Well, you
applicant,
can address
further
that
explain.
next.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions for Kevin? Okay, the petitioner now can step forward again. State your name and address again, please.
Jackie Toms, 2860 East Old Orchard Trail, and 26557 and 26559 East Shore Place. Let me find this. Right, the cabin is currently 24 by 34, and the manufactured home that we're looking at is 28 by 54. So it would definitely be longer and a little bit wider, but not enough to disrupt anything to our neighbors to the north. And then we're the property owners to the south, so, and we have checked on the setbacks and all that type of thing, and it should be fine for that size.
Anyone else have any questions for her? If not at this time, we may ask you to come back. Go ahead.
Just a question. So is this a brand-new mobile home going in?
2023,
Super.
Okay. Anyone want to address this? Any audience? Step forward again, state your name and address.
Margaret Bevere, 46271 Wall Lake Place, Hartford, South Dakota, 57033. We object to having a manufactured house move in there. It's a very, very small lot. I think that opens it up to any resident that lives on the lake that wants to put 2 homes on their property, an opportunity to do the same thing, and then before you know it, we're gonna have lots that are packed with these modular mobile homes. You know, people could say, well, you know, my grandparents want to live here, so I'm going to put a modular home on the end of my property. Or, you know, I have a cousin or an aunt or whatever. I mean, it just opens it up for everybody to start building 2 homes on one lot. And that cabin is a lot smaller than the proposed modular home that she's proposing to put up. The other thing is, I heard, you know, eventually it can house 6 to 8 people, and that also can become a bed and breakfast. So now we have 2 bed and breakfasts on one property. And now we don't have just 5 people in one bed and breakfast, we have 10 or 11 people staying in one lot. And again, we go back to the sewer issue. There is a problem with the sewer. It's people, you know, when you live there and it's your permanent home, you're very, very conscious of what can go down the sewer, what you can flush down your toilets. People that rent are not going to be very conscious of what they flush down the toilets or what they put down the sewer. They're just not going to follow the rules like that. When it's your permanent home, you're very concerned about having sewer failure and having to pay for a whole new sewer system. And when you start putting 2 homes on one small lot and start having, if you turn it into a bed and breakfast, 10 or 11 people renting, constantly different people coming and going all the time, they're not going to follow the rules. And then when you get that many people on a small lot like that, you can't tell me the noise level's not going to increase, the party level's not going to increase, there's going to be no management on the property to watch what they're doing, and yeah, you can tell them, well, we're going to do a background check. Oh, well, you passed the background check, but you misbehaved, so you can't come back. But the damage is already done to the neighbors that live there. And as you can see by the information that I gave you, 80% of the residents that pay taxes that live on that lake, long-term residents that have been there for years and years and years, are objecting to this. And I think 80% of the residents should have their voice heard. It's the area that we live in. It would be no different than, I don't know where any of you people live, but if the house next to you all of a sudden said, I want to become a B&B, the neighbors are going to sell, and they're going to make it into a B&B, and we're going to have people coming in and out all the time. You know, nobody permanent, nobody there that you know, and then you're trying to live in the same community with rental property. So yes, 80% of the residents that live on that side of the lake do object to what her proposals are. Thank you.
my son has asked to address.
Ma'am, you're going to have to wait a minute. There's still somebody that wants to address the opposition, and then you can come back, okay?
Yes, my name is Lance Bergeson, 26527 East Shore Place. And I would just like to say that this dovetails with the nature of the neighborhood in regard to the manufactured homes. To my knowledge, there's not a single manufactured home on the entire lake. and there hasn't been for quite some time. And so, just from a structural standpoint, this is something different than what exists in the neighborhood, and I'd like that to be considered. Thank you.
Step forward, sir.
My name is Dwayne Boyce, 26575 East Shore Place. I don't want to be argumentative, but there are a couple mobile homes up on North Shore along the lake. Many of my neighbors are making it sound like we're just this perfect community out there and everything's calm and quiet. It isn't. There's several people running commercial businesses in rural residential. There's people putting storage containers around. There's people with dogs that bark and bark and bark. There's people that have hobby sheds that make noises. There's people that have horses that make a hell of a lot of noise, excuse the French. And it isn't this quiet little community. And I am not all for a bed and breakfast. I'm not all for that. But I think we're being a little bit hypocritical in making it sound like these horrible people coming in here are going to ruin our community. I don't believe that, but I do not stand opposed to this, but I stand somewhat skeptical and would ask that we would have a number to contact if there was a problem and that it would be taken care of. Thank you.
Anyone else in opposition? Okay, you can step forward again. I didn't,
They said you can talk, so, wait, hold on, hold on. Okay, I think this will work. Go ahead.
This is just a test. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
please tell who he is.
Who you are.
And his address, please.
Christian Louder, 3775 Highview Drive, Colorado Springs, Colorado, 80908. So, thank you so much, everyone who is there for being here today. Again, my mom mentioned it already. It just shows, that we are a community. Yeah, we're not perfect, like Dwayne said, but, really, we are here to try and get that way. So, I just had a few things to address. First off, manufactured home. There is a big stigma around those two words. It's really not as bad or what people might think. It's not like Wall Lake's going to become some trailer park. We're actually going to be improving the existing structure substantially. It's going to be a world of difference. If you're traveling counterclockwise, hopefully around the lake right now, you look at the properties and that cabin stands out like a sore thumb. So we're here to try and make everything a little bit more congruent on the shoreline, if anything. And, if you were to drive by our house, my house, 3775 Highview Drive, you would not know that it's a manufactured home. Yes, we have multi-million-dollar homes surrounding us on every side in our neighborhood, but our home's worth $650,000, and it's 50 years old, and it's still standing just as strong as ever. And I have no doubt that these manufactured homes that, are being sold by the builder that we're looking at are of the same quality. Also, just want to address, there seems to be some concern that there would be multiple structures going up in addition to what's already there. That is not the case. This conditional permit is to replace one for one. And yes, slightly bigger, but I'll tell you what, this structure is going to be leaps and bounds, so much more energy efficient, so much more updated to current standards for building, for electrical, for plumbing, for sewage. We're going to connect everything brand new to this cabin that's not connected, at this time, including the water. And, this plumbing issue, I feel you, let me tell you. I'm a property manager, so if I never had to see another clogged toilet in my life, I would die happy. And, clogged sewers, they are a big deal. So I want you to know that we take that concern very seriously. And I have proven methods in my line of work to help reduce issues from that exact sort of thing. I deal with communities of 350 plus apartment homes and, close to approaching 1,000 residents in one, we'll say, half mile. And we've been able to manage this issue, and there's proven techniques to reduce the risk of things clogging up the sewer, and there's also other ways we can help manage it just by communicating, by putting signs up, which we're not afraid to do. We're planning on doing that on multiple different items, such as parking, so people know where to park, such as, how to operate the HVAC, things like that. It'll be a very, very detailed guidebook that guests open up when they walk in the door. And I'm glad to hear that there are some other people in this room that have utilized Airbnbs, so they kind of understand how they work. It's not like you would probably imagine a typical Airbnb, and that's not a bad thing. A typical Airbnb, I can see increased traffic because there's a sign at the corner of the road that says, come over here and stay at our Airbnb. We're not going to have that. We're going to be discreet, so discreet that, when people open up this app on their phone, and I realize, maybe that is a little bit difficult to picture if you've never done Airbnb, but people open up this app on their phone and they look at what's available. They're not going to be driving by looking at this property to see if they want to stay there, because we will have pictures and descriptions and maybe even videos of the property. And, it will actually be impossible for them to drive by because our address will not be listed in the application until they make the reservation. So the increased traffic really, I just can't see any possible way that that's going to be an issue. As far as the noise, my mother touched on it a little bit, but there are devices that we can have in place that will alert us immediately before, and this is a key point, before the noise gets to a level that it is, disruptive to our neighbors. And if it were to get to that point, immediately we can send a text to our guests saying, hey, just had a notification about noise on the property. Just wanted to make sure you remembered the guidelines on noise. And then it keeps monitoring after that. And so if the noise continues or it gets louder, we can make that 20-minute drive over to the property ourselves if we need to. If it gets to the point where it's extremely loud and there's really disruptive actions going on, then we can have, authorities take care of it. But I also want to touch on a point that we kind of skimmed over earlier, which is we gave you our phone number, we gave you our email, but we also gave you the direct contact for Airbnb. And they have 24/7 live support for neighbors, dedicated for neighbors to address noise concerns, just, like you may have. So we don't want it to ever get to that point, but I want to assure you that you have recourse if it does. And just like the kind lady mentioned, this is a permit for conditional use. This is not an everlasting, this is always going to be an Airbnb for the rest of time. This is us trying to make sure that we can have the income to keep this property going, to improve our neighborhood, and to really improve the property. So also want to, touch on the plumbing again and the structure. Somebody said it might not be structurally sound. We would not put money into something that's going to fall apart in 2 years. This is investment, and there would be no point to spending the money on tearing down an existing structure that's, if we needed to, we could stay in there and it would be, a place to stay. But we would spend the money tearing it down and then spend money on something that's just going to waste away. No, I'm sorry, but it's kind of, not something that we would ever consider there. So wanted to address also the fact that, it is making money. That doesn't mean this is some big business. This is our family just trying to keep this property in our family. There is the possibility of what if, this property wasn't in our hands, what would happen then? But, just want to touch back to, it's a 1-for-1 replacement, slightly bigger, but it's not going to make a difference in how our neighbors live their lives in the end. So
Okay.
thanks for your ears.
And I just want to address one thing as well. Margaret, I know that you are very concerned about a lot of different things, and I feel that, and I respect that. However, every single time someone leaves, I go out there to clean. So I am out there. I mean, if somebody's out there for 3 days, I'm still going to be at the other place. So if I'm at one place cleaning one day, I'll probably be at the other place 2 days from then, cleaning up, because we clean up every single time after a guest stays there. And I know I've been really lucky so far, because the people that have stayed have just been amazing. And all I have to do is go in and change the sheets and vacuum. So, but it's, it's not like I'm not going to be there. I will be there, and probably every day, if not every other day. How is that different from me not being there right now? But
And we're going to tag team it. I'm also going to be managing it on the administrative side on a daily basis, and that device that monitors noise, I'm going to have 24/7 access to. Also the Ring cameras that we mentioned before, I'll have 24/7 access to monitor, because somebody mentioned you don't really know what's going on there if you're not there. Well, a camera is going to give you a pretty good idea, and then noise monitor on top of that. I feel like I'm almost going to physically be there, so absentee management might be a bit harsh of a phrase to call it, but also did want to address the 10 p.m. is too late. I do appreciate that comment, and that's something that we'll definitely need to look into, maybe reducing that time frame for quiet hours, because that's a legitimate concern.
thanks, Chris. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I guess nobody else wants to speak. I'm going to close the floor.
As staff, I would just like to point out that you can decide to approve one aspect of the request or both at the same time. So if you decide that you want to deny the Airbnb, you can approve the manufactured home portion of the request, or vice versa.
Thank you. Commissioners? Jeff?
Well, let me just say that I think it's, people make assumptions about others all the time, and just because they are strangers to you doesn't mean that they're evil party maniacs just back from Sturgis. I think at the same time, there's a French philosopher, Jean-Paul Sartre, that said, hell is others. Just think how perfect the world would be if there weren't any other people. But we are people, and there's going to be people living in around this lake. And I think the people around the lake could do a better job of maintaining the sewer system, a better job of policing their own area. They have the sheriff lives right on the lake. He can help. And, you could become I think if you need more protection, go to a gated community. My daughter lives in one in Florida, and, it's Jack Nicklaus designed their golf course. You don't get in there, if you're not allowed. And, this is America, though, and Minnehaha County is not a gated community. People are going to come, they're going to go. There's going to be looky-loos, there's going to be lost lovers lane type problems, and whiskey bottles tossed out the window. This is America, and if we can all work together, I think we can make it better. I don't have a motion.
Any further discussion, commissioners? I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I guess, I kind of agree with Jeff that, maybe this is a lot of fear of the unknown. And yeah, I can sympathize with the fact that would I want to have a beautiful home on a lake and have people partying at 2 a.m.? Probably not, but who's to say that's actually going to occur? And it feels like the petitioner here has made a conscious effort to, look at noise monitoring, cameras on the outside, and to do their due diligence to curb some of that. And understand too, this probably will be appealed, but regardless, I do think we should approve this one. As pointed out, there are other existing mobile homes or pre-manufactured homes on this lake. I believe that precedent has been set. So to deny this particular one would be incongruent with that. So I guess I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions recommended by staff.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve conditional use permit 22-72. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Any old business? New business?
Move adjournment.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
microphones are chilly, they're even shaking.